Hey, you.
Yeah, you. Getting that college education.
What are you gonna do? Graduate and take some office job?
Be like everybody else.
Or will you dare do something different?
Like, be a teacher. You could be my teacher.
You got the skills.
The smarts?
Yes, you.
You could be the teacher I never forget.
That'd be cool.
Does that corporate job even have recess?
What are you gonna make of yourself?
What are you gonna make of me?
Your son wants to get a cat, but you're allergic. Do you A, prepare yourself, B, make the best of it,
C squared equals
25.
Good job.
or C, find a loophole? When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers, but that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
The following program was provided by an independent producer, solely responsible for its content. The views, information, or opinions expressed during this program series are solely those of the host and guests appearing on the program and do not necessarily represent those of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Brainstorm, bringing great minds and ideas together, exploring a wide variety of opportunities, achieving academic excellence, using the latest technology, government's impact, preparing for 21st century careers, parenting and health issues, topics shaping tomorrow. Brainstorm with Lisa Willever, bringing great minds and ideas together.
Welcome to Brainstorm. I'm Lisa Willever, and today we're talking about safe sports. Before we begin, let's learn a little bit more about our topic. America is a nation that loves sports, from our national pastime to Friday Night Lights to March Madness. Sports are celebrated and elevated, and our children dream of competing just like their sports heroes. But professional athletes have trainers and coaches to ensure their safety. So how can parents keep their kids injury-free so they can get in the game and stay in the game? Joining me today, I have Dr. Kevin Kunkel. Kevin, you are an orthopedic surgeon, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And so you have a very intense background with sports and sports-related injuries?
Yes.
Okay, so before we begin, let's talk about the benefits of sports, because I don't want to ever come off looking like we're against sports or anything negative. So sports have so many amazing benefits. Tell me some of the benefits you see as someone who treats athletes.
Well, I mean, from a personal standpoint, I play sports myself, so I really have a deep understanding in terms of the benefits from a psychological standpoint. Whenever I'm harried at work or having a lot of problems staying focused, if I am able to go out and go for a run or play any type of sporting activities, it really helps me focus my mind. So from that standpoint, and psychologically, it really helps out tremendously. And then also, you know, raising your heart rate and your breathing rate is good, building up your strength. One of the things that people don't tend to focus on is balance training, and that's real important, especially for older folks, to help prevent falls and injuries in that way. So there's tremendous amount of benefits from sports.
And you don't just play your typical laid-back sports. I know you play ice hockey, correct?
I do.
You do, okay.
It's a non-contact league, but...
Is it really non-contact? It's mostly non-contact,
supposed
right?
to be.
Okay. But no, I do want parents to understand sports really are an amazing way for kids emotionally, physically, mentally. You know, there's so many benefits to sports. But, and the love of sports is often passed from generation to generation. So if your dad was a big football player, you know, you might grow up throwing a football and having the same love of football. But I did notice over the years, because I came from a sports family, that back when sports didn't have a lot of rules and there weren't a lot of safety issues and items, that's almost like for past generations a badge of honor. You know, they'll say, when I was a kid, we didn't have helmets, and when I was a kid, we didn't have seat belts, and but you know, technology has advanced and medicine has advanced,
Yes.
and we have things to actually keep kids safer. So talk to me about some of the changes that have happened in sports and where we are right now with safety.
Well, as far as safety goes, I would love to say that everything is perfect and we've made
It's
so much
not?
progress.
Oh.
From the standpoint of keeping our kids safe from contact, yes. I mean, I grew up skateboarding and nobody wore helmets or pads. I had a pair of garden gloves that I wore when I was skateboarding, and that was
You
about
said garden
it.
gloves.
Garden gloves.
Garden gloves.
But
Okay, well, better than dish gloves. That's good.
I stole them from my dad.
Okay.
But nowadays, you have, you know, well-designed helmets. You have pads specific for whatever type of sporting opportunity you're playing. In terms of helmets, preventing concussions, we've made you know, remarkable progress with that. But the flip side of that is that not everything's great in the sports world these days, and with as much of the training and coaching that we've instituted over the years, some of that is actually working against us right now.
Okay, how so?
For instance, back when kids were just playing with their friends, they would go out and they'd play baseball, let's say. They would play for a bunch of, you know, a couple of hours, a bunch of innings until they got tired. And once they were tired, they'd head off the field and go do something else.
That was my childhood.
Exactly. After they got tired playing baseball, they'd go swim or they'd go ride their bikes or what have you. Nowadays, it's so organized, and baseball, for instance, we have kids that are playing baseball year-round. They're putting in more hours than a professional baseball player does. And as a result of that, there's a high incidence of what are called overuse injuries. Pitchers, for instance, they're having problems with their shoulders and elbows because they're doing too much of the same repetitive things over and over again. And it's putting a strain on their body. The age that we start kids specializing in one particular sport now is way too young for most of them. And whereas a lot of the parents feel that that's what's necessary to get their kids to the next level, when you talk to the coaches and the trainers and the people that are seeing what happens to those kids down the road when they're trying to get into a college program or playing professionally, most of the kids who have been through that aren't trying out for the teams. They've either burnt out, they're mentally burnt out from it, physically burnt out, and kids are having problems where they're trying to compete at a level that they're not ready for.
Well, I remember growing up, and we had seasons. So in the fall, kids played soccer. And usually in a rec program, you know, you might have one practice a week,
Right.
and then you had your game.
Sure.
And then in winter was, you know, basketball, and then spring was always Little League. You know, that was a big thing. And if you made the all-star team, you know, for your town, it might go another 6 weeks. But it was never to the point where, like, I know my son's friends, there are children who play one sport and they play it year-round on multiple teams, and they're travel teams, they're high-intensity teams. I know I had a coach that I spoke to, and he said one of his parents was very upset because it was a high school level, so it's very competitive, and it was a high school soccer team. And one of the parents came up and said, my son has been playing since he was 3, and he named all the teams and all the travel teams and all the special mentors he's had and specialized coaches and trainers. And he said he's hardly getting any playing time, and that boy over there is playing the whole game. And the coach said, this is competitive. And that boy's never played soccer before, but he came out for the team, and he's like a phenom. He's fantastic. And that's why he's playing more. And, you know, the parents almost feel like if you put the time in and you put the money in, that will equal athletic ability. And we forget it's still a natural talent. It's, you know, some kids are really athletically inclined and some aren't, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
And rec sports really allow them all to play together. But, you know, you worry about the high intensity and then, like you said, the overuse. When you pick one sport, Do you feel that it's comprehensive, the effect, that it's not just the overuse on the muscles, but it's just like your mind isn't doing anything else than that position? Does that have a detrimental effect?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it too. From the physical standpoint, then, typically there are classic types of injuries that occur. Throwing athletes, swimmers, soccer players. They all have certain types of classic injuries that occur with them. And if they were to go and play different types of sports, even switching it up from like soccer to basketball to, even baseball, they work different sets of muscles. They also, and this is a big thing that a lot of the hockey coaches have pointed out, that they would much rather have an athlete who is more well-rounded, and then with the capabilities that they've developed playing the different sports, then they can start to hone them into a good hockey player, as opposed to somebody who just spends all their time on the ice doing the same thing over and over again.
I read an article that said that playing the different sports gives them a better instinct for the game. So like you said, you can translate, you've played 4 different sports, it like heightens your athletic instincts, not just in that one arena. So it elevates them on many levels, for even if they end up specializing down the road. Because the one article said that the best athletes are those who played a variety of sports as children.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't, a lot of these athletes these kids admire, they played a bunch of different sports, and they played rec, and they took breaks in the summer. So we kind of picture everyone who's successful as going down that path, when it tends to not be the truth.
That's correct. And there's certain, physical changes that occur as you get older.
Puberty.
Through puberty. And just because you started playing, like you said, at a very young age, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be good at that sport when you come to age 18, 19, or 20, when you're trying out for the college team. And like you said, somebody who's been playing a multitude of sports, if you play lacrosse, that translates to your ability to see the field playing basketball, soccer, even ice hockey. Your field awareness gets developed and helps you in the certain situations where you have to read what's going on with the defense and adjust accordingly.
Well, we will be back in another, if you can stay, we will come back.
Absolutely.
Because this has been really enlightening. So we'll be back in another moment with more Brainstorm and Dr. Kevin Kunkel.
So there you are, shuffling through a stack of resumes, and you come to mine. This is it, first impression, my way in. But can my resume show you how I truly stand out? Like that I was studying, going to night school while working 2 jobs just to help my parents pay for groceries. Or being the first one to always step up. No, that's something you just can't put on paper. Look beyond the resume and discover new ways to develop great talent that is dedicated, hardworking, and determined like me.
They told me a bottle couldn't dream. That I would never become a superhero. But I learned how to fly. Just to come back in a new disguise. And be the hero that I've always wanted to be.
Look at you. You're at the top of your game. You're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Yeah, I saw that coming. That will throw you off track. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
And we're back with more Brainstorm, and we're talking about safe sports. And I'm joined by Dr. Kevin Kunkel, an orthopedic surgeon, and we were just talking about all the things that parents and students, players do, including trying to get scholarships and dreams of playing professionally. One of the things that I think people kind of fail to look at or don't want to look at is if you do get that college scholarship, you really need a plan B, because if you're on a full ride, and I know 2 children this happened to, they were on full rides. One was a hockey player, got that final concussion where they said, you cannot play anymore. And the scholarship disappeared, and he could no longer stay at that college. So this is something I don't think people realize, the injury factor. So talk to me about prevention. I mean, I know one of the things the kids never want to do is warm up and stretch and do things like that. Please tell the viewers and their parents how important this is, because you know, you just can't go out there cold and start doing this and expect your body to respond, right?
Right,
okay.
Exactly.
I'll let the doctors talk.
I mean, I run, and I feel that unless I take the time and stretch beforehand, I'm not able to run to the same level of intensity, and you run the risk of injury. There's been studies done that look at stretching, and stretching before an event, after event, especially for runners, because runners have had a lot of injuries over since the advent of specialized running. It's hard to really to display the benefits of that for everyone. Everyone's body is a little bit different, their training is different, but I think all in all, the stretching and doing so beforehand, warming up to to the level of intensity, as opposed to just going out cold and right out of the gate trying to be very aggressive with your activities. It's extremely important.
Now, if you translate that into a year-long calendar, I know people, I'm not mentioning names, just somebody I happen to be married to, that years ago decided to run a 5K and started to train, I think the weekend before. So, he made it. He did a great job, but I thought he was going to die getting across the finish line. And he's in great shape, but he hadn't been running. He hadn't been training. Do children need to know that even if you're doing your seasonal sports, you should still do something to keep moving all year long, that you don't want to just come out like the groundhog during your season and expect to excel and do your best if you've spent 9 months doing nothing?
Right, exactly. Well, let me just say, as an orthopedic surgeon, that type of activity is highly endorsed by us, because that's what gives us patience.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm kidding.
Your beach house, and yeah, okay.
No, exactly the opposite. I mean, you really have to take time and warm up. It's very important. For instance, right now there's sort of an explosion of problems in women's sports or girls' sports in terms of the number of ACL tears that these women are experiencing. Let's take soccer, for instance. If you have a boys' team and a girls' team, the girls' team playing on the exact same surface, exact same equipment, to that whatever age intensity level, the women have anywhere from a 2 to a 10% greater likelihood of tearing an ACL or a anterior cruciate ligament, which is one of the main stabilizers in the knee joint. They have 2 to 10% higher, or 2 to 10 times higher incidence of tearing that ligament than the boys. And one of the ways that we've determined that we can help prevent that or lower that number is with doing off-season training, and also with certain types of stretches and activities prior to the game, what we call plyometrics or jump training. And so they actually will they'll reprogram the girls how to land from a jump, how to decelerate, come to a stop, cut, change position.
And is this an anatomical difference? That's why?
That part of it is. There can be an overload between the muscle mass of the quadriceps, the muscles in the front part of the thigh, versus the hamstrings in the back part. And the quadriceps are the ones that actually can cause the problems. They're so much more powerful, and they work against the ACL or anterior cruciate ligament. Whereas the hamstrings, which a lot of people don't work on developing, are much more important in terms of protecting that structure.
Okay.
So you can train them to do that.
Well, you brought a book along with you called Warrior Girls, and it
Yes.
says Protecting Our Daughters Against the Injury Epidemic in Women's Sports. Michael Sokolov is the author. And tell me some of the great things that are in this book, because this is something that, with so many more girls participating in sports, the numbers seem to be much higher. If there is this anatomical difference, we need to make sure girls are training and playing in a way that works for them, not the same way as the boys.
Absolutely. This is an extremely important issue right now in the orthopedic, in the sports world, that we need to start learning how to protect the girls from these types of injuries because they're occurring at such a rapid rate. The big sport for this is soccer, and is huge in this area. But other sports, ice hockey, lacrosse, they have the same sort of
Yeah, lacrosse,
things.
I would think that's really
Field hockey.
growing right now.
Yeah, so you know, I highly recommend this to all your listeners, all your whole audience, as far as reading it, and it gives you a good insight in terms of what the girls are dealing with nowadays in terms of sports and sports injuries, and how to prevent it, how the orthopedic world is working to minimize these types of injuries.
Well, that's wonderful, because like I said, there are so many girls, and we want to encourage girls to play,
Absolutely.
but we don't want them to be injured. We want them to be able to continue to play. So what other things can people do, parents of boys and girls, to reduce risk? We know stretching and warming up and not being a weekend warrior who goes out once a year for a 5K.
Absolutely.
What else have you got there?
Just doing different things. You know, not focusing on on one sport. Trying different things. There's so many nowadays. There's so many different sports out there that you can try, and some of them are a little less mainstream. Things like rock climbing, yoga, things like that. And whatever, if you're a running athlete or an endurance athlete, and you don't work on stretching, then it's very important that you start working on that. And doing things like yoga, which has fantastic benefits, can really change your game tremendously.
And a lot of professional athletes do these types of things, and kids don't
Absolutely.
realize. I mean, I remember when I was a kid watching some of the football players who would crochet to keep their fingers nimble. And you know, nowadays they do yoga and all those different things. You brought another book called Until It Hurts, America's Obsession with Youth Sports and How It Harms Our Kids, by Mark Hyman. Again, this is such a great message to just gently remind people that sports should bring kids fun. It should bring joy. It should teach them to win and lose, and to lose with class. And you know, I used to tell my kids all the time, like, you'll feel sad for a little while, but then look back and you're like, you know what, we did our best. Or you know what, we weren't playing that great that day. They really did deserve to win. And we want them to learn these life lessons through sports, teamwork, camaraderie. It's hard to do that if you have that pressure and somebody's so intense and they're really trying to, you know, tell you have to win, because you're not always going to win.
Right.
So talk to me about this book here.
Well, as you said, someone's got to win and somebody's got to lose. That's just the nature of the competition. If you're doing it until it hurts, then that's the wrong philosophy.
Say that one more time. If you're doing it until it hurts,
If you do it until it hurts, then you're overdoing it, and you're going to cause problems, not only in the short term, but potentially long term as well.
And that's a message really for the parents, because many of the parents come from the no pain, no gain generation, where you had to beat yourself down. So now we're learning no, if it's really hurting, stop and let it recuperate a little bit. Or okay, what else have you got here?
I mean, one of the things people see, the Olympics. We just had the Winter Olympics and how huge that is. You kind of get caught up in, what's going on in professional sports, and then you try to bring that down to your level. Having the right coaches, and basically what this book is trying to point out is that if you're focusing on one sport, you're playing it all the time, you're overdoing it, you need to vary things, you need to try other activities, work on your capabilities, and what you do on a different playing field is going to help you perform the sport that you want to do.
Okay.
And that's really a huge message, which a lot of people don't really follow.
Yeah, well, I think it's a great message. And we are now going to play Brainstorm. And this is our game where we go through, in the tradition of brainstorming, 8 ideas. If they're true, if they're good ideas, we keep them. And if they're not, you get to ball them up and you get to play another sport besides ice hockey and running. You get to play basketball. Are you ready?
I'll give it a shot.
Okay, you're going to give it a shot. Here we go. Idea 1. The younger a child specializes in a sport, the better they will play.
Absolutely
All right,
wrong.
there you go. Let's see how you do here. We'll even tilt it for you, Lou. I have no backboard, so. All right, you probably don't need the tilt there. Number 2, the point of sports is scholarships and going pro.
Absolutely not. It's for the fun of the game.
Fun of the game and all the things you learn from sports.
Exactly.
Good job. Okay, number 3. Warming up and stretching is extremely important to reducing injury.
I can't agree with that more.
Okay, very good. Number 4, the best athletes played a variety of sports.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's a great message for kids. Number 5, level of enjoyment should be the measure of success for young athletes.
That's fantastic. Absolutely. And the parents need to keep that in the back of their
Level
mind.
of enjoyment, that's what it's supposed to be about.
It's for the kids, not the parents.
Not the parents. All right, parental support must include listening to athletes.
Absolutely.
And really listening.
Yes.
Not like, okay, yeah, you'll be fine. Number 7, balance is the key to being a healthy athlete and person.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Also in preventing injuries.
And athletes must be their best advocate when it comes to injuries.
Absolutely.
Well, you really didn't have too many you had to shoot. Look at that. So I think
nice.
we've given our viewers a lot to think about as far as how to keep their kids safe, but still enjoy sports and still get out there and play, and hopefully play a variety of different sports. So I wish you many healthy, safe years on the ice.
Thank you.
And hopefully I won't be sending my family to orthopedic surgeons anytime soon.
No.
And I want to thank the viewers for joining us for another episode of Brainstorm. We'll see you next time.
Marie, you have prediabetes.
Prediabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Oh, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
This is great news. Busy moms never get prediabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for prediabetes, and way over here, busy moms. No?
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
Me and my boy Matt had it good. He had catnip that was off the hook. But one day, he brings a girl home, and she's allergic to cats. Every sneeze was a nail in my coffin. Now I'm in a shelter. It's decent, but they don't even have Wi-Fi.
Mom.
Dear.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for information on how to provide even better care for the person who wants to care of you.